So, Paul, what'd you bring in?
Toys. Just it's not always easy to describe our cutting tools. So it's like, a little bit of things.
So that starts out life as a carbide blank.
Carbide blanks, absolutely. Got your good old carbide blank. Then now we, depending on what the customer wants, we will match it to the part they're trying to accomplish with the print process, standard end mills we make, custom cutting tools. That's more of what we do on a regular basis. What we built our business on. So it's just a wide variety of things, and leading into the robotics, it's like this, it's our next step.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of companies have used robotics forever, and we're in the early stages.
And you're using robots to load the CNC machines, so load and unload?
Yes.
Yeah.
Load, unload. For us, we didn't, as you started the cutting tool business or got into it deeper, always thought you'd have operators and machinists who'd be able to fill those roles and keep things going. It's become
tough.
harder and harder to find people with the want to learn and make the adjustments. So we've looked since 2018. 2019 we've added 4 different robotic CNCs within our factory, and it's a necessity because we still have talented machinists who can program it and get everything set up, and then just let the machine take it from there. So tolerances are much tighter on these machines. You spend a lot more to be able to make high quality cutting tools, but then to be able to mass produce them, which is something we're looking to do more of. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the movie Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. So we made investments well before we should have. Yep. The accountants were like, don't do it. But now it's starting to pick up a lot of momentum for us, and we're set for the future.
Awesome.
So how long does it take to build one of those that big one right there? Yeah.
To run this on the CNC, it runs it through a couple different departments. First department is going to grind the blank down, the diameter, take it to what it is.
What's the blank? How long is the blank? Or do you guys buy it cut to length?
These will buy it cut to length.
Yep.
But you can get 12-inch blanks, cut them to whatever size you need. If it's 2, 3, 4, 6-inch, 8-inch, whatever we want to do to cut it, and then we'll use the other half for other types of tools. But something like this is probably a 45-minute cycle to do the spurs portion of it.
That's a long time.
With fluting, spinning, I'm sure we have probably closer to 2 hours of grinding into something like this, which is why the price ends up a lot higher.
So does it actually get, does it go quicker when you have it automated versus when you're more manually?
It goes quicker because the machine doesn't take breaks.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
or visit.
Or talk,
or get COVID.
Yeah, true, right?
Have you tried giving it a COVID test?
No, boys.
There's a lot of factors.
All right. Sorry. So, Jason, would you consider that automation? Because there is a fundamental, what is automation? And in your world, you guys are building assemblies that are comprised of a lot of components. This is starting with a raw material blank and grinding it down via CNC. Would you consider that?
Yeah, I'd consider it automation because, you look at it, before you had a machine to do that, there's versions of that, whether somebody's whittling on a bench versus more automated machine to when you're putting robots in there and you're not having a human interaction on it. So, I would consider that automation.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when, there's a lot of talk on automation and robotics, and you go to any machine shop in the area, everybody has a Haas CNC machine, and there's various equipment, and that type of automation's been around for a long time.
Exactly, and I think when you look at it, it's evolved, like you said. The new machines, and they can run quicker. You can load more stock into them. They can be self-contained. For longer periods of time. Yeah,
and so just as far as automation at WiLL's, you guys essentially are an automation company. At the core of your engineering here in Fond du Lac is automation and integrations. It's an amazing facility. Anybody that has ever had a chance to walk through, it's really, really cool to see. And you guys are very open to having people through, and it's been great to get through there. But just describe what does WiLL's look like? What does a cell look like? What's it comprised of? Or I guess as much as you can relay, but what is your automation team? What are they working on?
Yeah, so our automation team, we build the aftermarket and some OE products in the electronic side of it. So it's voltage regulators, ignition modules. A lot of small stuff, small scale automation. Our robots and stuff aren't picking up 50, 100 pounds. They're picking up small pieces.
Sure.
So we build all the stuff in house, which is kind of nice for us because
really cool.
because if we have a customer that says, hey, we need this tweaked a little bit or we need something different, we have the ability to have a tool house and in-house that can actually make the tooling, and then we can adjust the automation, make tweaks to the robots or do something different to the assembly line.
So the fixturing itself. What holds the part in space in the same spot all the time.
Yep.
You guys are able to do that.
We're able to do that. Yeah. So that ours are cells. So typically we'll have an operator will load the part, and there might be a process that we can't automate. Within there, we might have to put another operator to do it, but then the next station will be automated. Mm-hmm. So, and in some cases, we're working on a new line where the person loads the parts and it goes through a full automation process, and then they just unload it. So they're just loading and unloading all day long.
Okay, so yours automation is way different than ours. So our typical job is 2 to 6 pieces. Mm-hmm. If we have a big job, we can set up our robots and have it run overnight, maybe into a second day. 55 hours is the longest run we've ever had.
Yeah.
Having gone through your facility, it seems to be like you're setting up for a week at a time. Or I guess what's the range for parts?
Typically, our parts, we have small runs, we have large runs. Some cases we might run for a week. We do have one department that runs 3 shifts. So, but a little bit different than yours is you can set it up, and I believe it probably can just run, and then the operator only has to come in and reload or something.
Check. Yep.
For us, typically, we can't just push the button and it goes. There has to be some interaction with that line, either bringing materials to it or taking materials off and loading, because we don't have full packaging at the end. So we don't have a robot pulling it off and putting it in a box. We have an operator pulling it out, because then they do a spot check look on it, make sure that there's a date code and there's different features that we could look at that maybe might be something that's critical that we can't do with a vision system.
And that's the operator. And then is there a technician that oversees kind of the technical aspects? And if there's a design change, then you pull an engineer in, or what's kind of the division of labor?
So we have technicians, they support it. Yep. So they're the ones that do it in a changeover. So if you have a changeover on a line, they're going to be the one doing a changeover. They're going to be the ones that actually are watching the process too. And they'll be able to tell if glue patterns aren't going correctly, or if a cover's not fitting on there correctly. And they can make adjustments or make changes along the way, and then typically we have engineers on site, both ones that are manufacturing engineers, and then also we have our design engineers that support. So if it's an issue with a component or a part, and they'll go and either make changes or they'll give us solutions that we have to do. We're just working through an issue this morning, doing that same thing. We had a meeting saying, hey, this is what we can do to modify the parts, and it's offline operation that we're going to work on so we can keep the lines running.
And is your background, is it mechanical engineering or automation engineering, or what's?
Mine's electrical engineering.
Oh, it is.
So
okay.
I started out, I graduated from UW-Platteville in 1998.
Okay.
And
the Harvard of the Midwest.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Paul, you're a couple years before me, right?
A couple.
You were at Platteville too?
Absolutely.
Oh, nice.
You're surrounded by greatness here.
Yeah.
Greatness and no girls.
Also true.
So I started out at Wells in 1998 when I graduated, and I've been there ever since. And they've been good to me. And I started out as a test engineer.
Okay.
So I was building automated tests. Mainly at that time, a lot of the stuff was already there as far as the hardware. And I might be doing some internal hardware changes, but it was mainly on ignition modules. So I learned from that, and I learned the fast-paced part of assembly and making sure lines are staying up all the time, because that's where you make the money. And so it was a little bit stressful, but then I transitioned to our main plant, which used to be just down the road here on Brook Street, and I supported our Reynosa, Mexico facility. And that's where I think I learned the most, because at that point, I was the only guy supporting that. So I was flying down there, I was building equipment, I was learning, on the fly on how to do a lot of things. And that's where I think I excelled, with the interaction and the training and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, that's some really good experience.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun stuff.
Was there a language barrier for you?
There was, but our facility down in Mexico, we have a lot of good English speaking. They're bilingual. So I tried to learn Spanish. I went to the tech, I took classes and stuff, but it kind of never really panned out because I got
until
down
you're
there.
in it every day.
Yeah. And then exactly, that's what it was. And if I was in it every day, I would have learned more. But I went down there, I tried to speak it, and they'd be like, just speak to me in English. It's easier. You're only going to be down here for 3 or 4 days. We need to get this going.
can get more done that way.
Yeah.
And Paul, you told a story a few weeks ago when you were at a trade show, and I think it was your entry into some of the robotic stuff, and something kind of clicked in your mind, and you said, we need to go down this path. And you have, seasoned operators, and you have, technical people on staff, but as a small business owner that maybe didn't have 20 years of experience in automation, what did it look like for you to use your vendor resources and your trade show resources and kind of internal operator knowledge to get in the game on some of the robotic side of things?
Well, from my background in sales, we're able to talk to the customers often. Okay, what's coming next? What's the next great thing that we want to get ahead of in case we need to make a technological advance, invest in CNCs? And it came together. The more prints we were seeing, the more tight tolerance tools that customers were requesting. We realized, okay, they can't find operators either to make, or machinists to make the part that they want. They have to have a perfect cutting tool and a button pusher to run the parts that they're making. So we had to invest in tighter tolerance equipment at the same in more expensive equipment. And a year ago at the IMTS show in Chicago, we were walking.
We saw each other there, randomly.
Yes, of the thousands of people there.
I know you.
But we were at the trade show booth on Wednesday and looked at a new piece of equipment that, fortunately, one of our current suppliers manufactures, and just in a different arena from the cutting tools. It's more of the spinning portion of it. So we looked at it in the trade show booth, and it's like, wow, the other two guys that I was standing there with were pretty much in awe on what it could do. We sent 3 more operators down on Friday of the show, and I had them call me in the afternoon, and then I got on the phone and did the pitch and said, don't send that machine back to Detroit. Send it up to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. We're going to buy that on the machine that was on the trade show floor.
And were your operators excited about that? Did they feel maybe threatened is a little bit of a harsh term, but it is a cultural shift to go from some of the manual to robotic operations?
So I'll use the word giddy. Maybe that's how I was feeling. But it was. They knew it was going to open a door for us.
For sure.
And they're the ones who, the way it works with our company, the operators become more of the conversation of the opportunities that we can bring in. So it's like, okay, get 5 guys around a table. It's like, can we do this? What are the obstacles? And they were seeing the same thing over and over. It's like, our machine just can't do it.
I see.
So when we finally saw the machine that can, and then I made all the people who are normally sitting around the table go to Chicago, spend some time, take a look at it. It was easy to make the decision, and then a couple of months later, it was on our floor, plugged in, ready to go.
So now did that replace a piece of equipment, or would all the other stuff stay there?
I wish. No, we just move things and tighten things up within our facility. So it's a history lesson. You'll have to come to our shop. It's a history lesson. The oldest machine is still there, and there's 5 machines to get to the brand new shiny one.
Because I think that would be less scary, if you're keeping the equipment there. I mean, that's kind of the problem we have. I mean, I shouldn't say problem, but that's kind of the things that you got to be careful with when I'm going to take this machine and it's going to replace this other one, and then that replaces a person, and then people start getting nervous. If you bring it in there and say, well, the other stuff's still here, this is just another one, for more business.
And that's absolutely part of the equation. You do have to realize that there are, feelings, egos, seniority involved. It's like, well, I've been here this long. What's with another CNC? Well, it's not. It's to enhance and put our company in a better position for the future. And it's job security. It's job security for everybody who's there and wants to learn about that piece of equipment. And the younger guys love that type of stuff.
For sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So how did you, when you were at the IMTS show, how did you pick that piece of equipment? Was it just because there's a lot of equipment there? I mean,
well, there's a lot of equipment there. We have, from the same manufacturer, we have 10 CNCs.
Okay.
And this is just another piece of their product.
So they took you out to dinner.
Didn't have to.
It was bright and shiny, and Paul said that one.
Easy pick. Pretty close.
So you picked the same manufacturer.
Same manufacturer.
Okay,
we knew where the
sense.
training was going to take place. We knew what the technical support was going to be.
Yep.
And we've dealt with them for as long as I've been there.
Yeah.
So 1999 was our first CNC from that manufacturer before I got there. And we've just continued to work with them, and they're experts in our industry.
And that's key too. We've done the same thing. Now we have a lot of Denso robots in our facility, and we've started looking at some of the Epson ones. And a lot of times you look at, because we're you see a lot of automation there, but compared to other places, we're kind of small. When you go to a larger place, that you're going to be buying lots of bigger robots or more expensive stuff. So costing is always a thing to look at. It's like how much it's going to cost. But what people don't look at is, okay, I'm going to buy that cheaper one. But then what kind of support you're going to get?
Yep.
Because we found this out in the past. We bought cheaper stuff, and then all of a sudden now it's time to get some service. And you might not get quick service. And then the big thing I learned was the user groups and the stuff that's out there online. That's why you learn a lot. Because once you go to school, they only teach you so much in engineering and automation. A lot of it you're going to learn out in the field and what you're going to be doing. And if you have a good staff of application engineers that you can reach out to and a company that's established, and even if there's other companies within the area that use the same pieces of equipment, whether it's robots or PLCs or some kind of automation, there's usually help. You kind of can tie into user groups and stuff.
And have you selected standardized robots and equipment so you have maybe more volume through fewer manufacturers? So as support issues come up, you're not, it's not spread across a bunch of different vendors. They're more likely to help you out.
Yeah, that and the big thing is if something goes down, and it goes down on maybe a Friday night, and you want it back up and running by Monday morning, guys can come in and swap that robot out and say, hey, we're not using that piece of equipment the next week. Let's take that one. It's the same one, so you're buying the same stuff. The tooling all bolts up to it, and everything's the same.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed as we've gotten into automation projects here in the last few months is, my approach when learning something new is to try and talk to as many people as possible. Build relationships with new vendors. Vet a bunch of vendors, and I say until you stop learning huge chunks of information, like every single day, if you're still 100% smarter than you were the previous day, if it hasn't leveled off, you have to keep looking. And what I've noticed with some of the more junior engineers is they don't necessarily always use outside resources. They try and solve every problem on their own.
Yeah.
And that's just where you start to 3 months ago, I didn't know what an integrator was. I didn't know who the top 3 robotics companies were for welding robots, scuffing robots, finishing robots, and all the other type of resources. But as an engineer or technical person, at some point you do realize that you have to leverage your resources as much as possible.
Oh, absolutely. And you find out engineers are kind of geeks anyhow. So if you find somebody, you can
say that.
Yeah, I can say that. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm the only one engineer. Okay, yeah. So I'll become the geek.
I didn't say anything. Anything.
But they almost want to get into the technical versus
they want to
manage the vendor relationship.
And if you find somebody that's solved the problem that you might be looking for, they're going to be more than willing, as long as there's no NDAs or something. They're going to tell you, hey, try this, try that, because it's in their wheelhouse, and that's something they live and breathe every day.
Yeah, it's almost shocking how helpful some of these vendors and these resources can be. We've got a couple companies we're working with now, and we have tens and tens of hours with them. We have not spent a dime. We're working with their application engineers, and we're a small company. We're not going to be buying hundreds of robots, but they're incredibly helpful. And that's been a breath of fresh air. We have a small engineering team, but just especially in this area, you start to get into the Valley and you start to get into Milwaukee, and there's just a lot of really a good support group, and people are willing to help, like you said.
Yeah. That's to find the key ones, and you might pay a little bit more for that piece of equipment, but if you have the support, and if it does go down, you could lose all that, all that extra money you saved in a matter of days.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever over automated at this point? Have you overdone it, or you've done it incremental enough where you can kind of prevent that from happening?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a situation where we maybe over automated. There's always, the thing with automation is you might have an idea of how to do it, and you put it in the model and you draw it up, and then you start running parts, and you typically don't know how that automation is going to run until you get maybe 500,000 parts. Then you might find out that this isn't, and we're talking small pieces that we're picking up or something like that. And we've been down that road where, on me on the test side, I do a test program, and and we'd start running, and it's fine, you know. And then all of a sudden, about 300-400 parts into it, it's like, ooh, I never thought of that.
So is it just it's slightly out of tolerance, or it just kind of stacks?
It could
stacks
be,
over
yeah,
time,
or the parts
things wear out.
Things wear out, or you might not think that part over time is going to start catching or whatever, or if it's moving, sliding, it might, you know, start wear. It's probably won't wear the tooling that quick, but if it's a plastic part and it starts, you know, scuffing up, or plastic pieces start coming out and maybe start sticking or something. That you might not. So I don't know of any at the top of my head of where we over automated. You know, in theory and thinking through things, we have drawn up over automation. You know, and we go, we'll scale back with.
And you're modeling everything, right? The machine, that's the part.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're simulating the whole thing.
Simulating the whole thing. I mean, when I started designing the test equipment, it was more, you know, a lot of stuff was still 2D, and now everything is 3D. And now you can draw in the whole model. You know exactly how everything is going to fit, and then even like probing or how a part's going to grab.
Tolerance checks.
Tolerance. That little bit of tolerance checks too. Yeah, but yeah, you can with 3D modeling, it's incredible, you know. And I look back, it's like I don't know how to 3D model. I draw in 2D back in the day
really?
when I would in 1998 when I graduated from Platteville. You know that we did. I mean, it was AutoCAD 2D, but you know, for me, I never had to because I was on more of the automation engineering side. We had CAD designers that would do that, but you'd work hand in hand with them, you know, because you'd be like, I want to do that, and they'd change it and stuff. But yeah, without 3D modeling, it's like, I don't know, things would be so much harder, you know.
So it ends up being a pretty mechanically heavy engineering discipline then.
Yeah,
a lot of time spent in SolidWorks or in the modeling software.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we have the key, you know, a little bit differences. We have some of the mechanical guys and we got the electrical guys. So in our groups, you have the manufacturing engineers, then you have the test engineers, and then you have the automation engineers. And the automation engineers will have a background typically more mechanical. You know, obviously you got some programming, so you have some of that. But typically, if you're going to get a guy that's electrical, like myself, you know, you're going to have that circuits that you want to design. So you kind of lean more of those guys to the testing end of it or programming.
And does your team get involved on the design side, so you know what the design engineers are creating can actually be made?
Yeah, and that's where we have. That's why it's nice being all in house. So we got the 2 floors. We got, you know, an automation guys downstairs, and on the second floor we have the design engineers. And we'll have meetings as we kick off these new designs where they'll sit down and they'll look at the design, you know, and sometimes there's good debates going on with how they're going to do it because you have to design for manufacturing, and that's where things in the past I think we've learned that we say that might the engineer be like I think this is going to work, and if you don't have a skilled enough person that's on the automation side of it, you might say I think it's going to work too until you start on a production, and then that's where we have the expertise of people in house that if they've done stuff for years, they'll have that experience where they can say, we've tried that before. That ain't gonna work. You know. So
cool.
When you graduated, did you have the electrical engineer background already, or you had that discipline?
Yeah.
To get into mechanical design, are those things that have just been growing over the years? I don't recall hearing all those names in different disciplines.
Yeah, I think. And you're saying the disciplines as far as the
specific design engineer. Process engineer, on and on.
Well,
there's so many different names that have cropped up before.
You graduate as an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer. And you got industrial in there, and you got chemical and stuff like that. But, you know, you typically, mechanical guys and electrical guys, you're going to go into a road where you could take an electrical guy and he can be designing a complete circuit. Or he can be in a paper mill, you know, programming all the automation, you know, PLCs. That was a big thing when I graduated. A lot of guys were going into the paper industry, PLC programming. Well, in school, we didn't do PLC programming. You know, you had maybe a couple weeks of it in one of the controls class. And then, you know, you had to learn it on the fly out there. And your schooling taught you about programming and just a common, you know, the common denominators of that. And then you just had to learn it.
And as a mechanical engineer, you could also get into process engineering, manufacturing engineering.
Yeah, so you get so the mechanical guys come in, and you got the tooling side of it. Those are the guys that are typically going to be drawing things in 3D modeling.
Yep.
You know, so you can come out, you get that degree in mechanical or degree in electrical, and you can go different ways. You know, we got guys that are mechanical that, you know, do automation too, you know, and do the programming and are good programmers. So it just depends on your thought process. And once you get that engineering degree, if you're good at it, you can adapt.
Yeah, and I'm seeing more mechanical engineers that are learning coding and embedded and running Arduino and Raspberry Pis and kind of learning that on their own.
Yeah.
So there's so many tools online where it seems like there's a lot of that's crossing over.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Paul, you have a great shop, clean, air conditioned, right?
Yes.
What is the
climate control?
Climate control. Yeah. What was the driver behind that? And we've got a few people we're going to bring through your shop. Is it next month? No, it's this month yet. The 29th, November 29th.
Yes, absolutely.
So Molly's not here to confirm the schedule.
But I think it's a model small business manufacturing environment because, you have the combination of some of the automation, and manual operators, and you're doing smaller volumes and medium volumes, but it's also a great place to work. What was the main driver behind that for you guys
to move to the new location?
Just building that type of a facility out and investing in having that type of environment on the shop floor.
So when our previous building, 2016, the previous owner moved there in 98, was there, and it hosted 3 businesses, and it was an L-shaped building, and it was definitely
was that True Fire?
That's where we moved to.
Okay,
was
you moved
True
to True
Fire.
Fire. Yeah,
but before that, it's where Precision Overhead Door is.
Okay,
right across from Rolling Meadows Golf Course, just down from Wells, and it was 3 separate buildings all into one, and it was just chopped up. We had our saw department, our manual department, CNC department, and there wasn't any. It just didn't flow well. So if you brought in a customer and the first thing they saw was our antiquated machines, sorry, manual department, but it was the first thing they saw because that's when we moved in the building. And then our CNC was the last thing they would see. It's like, okay, if we ever get to a new facility, we're going to show off our most recent investments in equipment and make it appealing. So whether we know what we're doing or not, we look like we do. So that was absolutely part of it.
Act as if.
Yeah. Well, you go through Wells, it's like, wow, these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many scrap parts are going out the back, but for us, that was a perception
0.
we had to overcome.
Zero. Good answer.
But it was something we had to overcome, just a perception. You walk in our old place, like, wow, this place is dingy. Now you walk in, it's like, wow, it's state-of-the-art facility.
So you want to, and it's similar to what we're doing here is, when we do, tours with, whether they're candidates or customers or vendors or, bringing the high school through, I think it's part of kind of opening up the kitchen. Like I always say, the best restaurants where you can see into the kitchen, like the best manufacturing facilities are willing to have people walk through. And I think that, it is part of the showroom is, what does it look like? When you go through and people go through Wells, like, man, this is a really cool place. They go through your shop and you can take a lot of pride in the willingness to bring people through and showcase that. I think it's important.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
You can have the best web page in the world, but they still can't get a feel for your shop until they're there.
Yep.
So when they go walking through all of our facilities, we're very fortunate that we have customers who want to come see it.
Yep.
For one thing, and once they get in, they're hooked. So even with the high school tours, one of our recent hirings that took place was a student from WLA who had gone through our facility a year and a half ago on one of the Project Grill tours, and liked it. And we didn't even have a position open, and they said, "Hey, I would like to come. I'm looking for a job. I've graduated now." And we're like, "Well, sure, we'll be polite and sure you can come on in for an interview." And within 5 minutes, we were offering them. It's like, we're hiring this person. You could just see the want to that was there, and it was based on our facility. They had said we looked
100%. And
when they were like, "Well, so why would you want to work here? Because you look like you got along." It's like, wow. Okay.
How many people do you have working there?
We have 28. A couple of youth. We have 3 youth apprenticeships right now.
Is that just one shift then, or you have
first and second shift? In our CNC department, there's only 4 guys who work second shift CNC, but first shift, and it's ideal working hours too. It's working 4/10s.
Oh, that's perfect.
So,
yeah, everyone wants that.
Yeah. So especially on a deer hunting week.
Oh yeah.
Today at 3:00, people are heading out to the
yeah, it's like a national holiday.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow, I'm like, there's quite a few people that are out. And then all next week.
Yep. So to get the people in the doors, just like you guys are doing the same thing. It's like you have to show off what you're doing at all times, and people get hooked on it. And environment, culture, they can see it right away.
Yeah.
Paul, you also have really, really nice people.
Amazing.
Well, Paul's a nice
No,
guy.
but I didn't.
Not
Okay,
just
I
the
wasn't-
beat,
In spite of me,
No, I just remember stop it. When we came in for that that interview with WMC and we did that video shoot, I just remember your guys on the shop floor were so
For sure.
friendly and
Yes.
they were like, I was very curious. I'd never been in that kind of manufacturing environment before, and they were all like so willing to talk to me, explain it, walk me around and show me the different equipment so that I could understand the total process and where it goes from like A to Z within the shop floor. And they were just lovely, lovely people.
we have, well, let's see here. If it's 28 employees right now, 22 people are on our wall for dedicated years of service, meaning they've been there 5 years or more. So for between 5 and 35 years of experience at our company, and our company's been around for 36 years, so kind of cool. That we have that many people who, once they do show up, they see that this is a good place. We pay a very fair. The wage doesn't mean as much, but we pay fair for the market. Our benefits are tremendous because we want to keep people there. The hours, it works out really well. But yeah, and we look for people who have the right attitudes too. It's not the degrees. We're not looking for all the electrical engineers in the planet. There's enough other companies in town
Willing to
who need
learn,
them.
right?
Yeah, willing to learn.
Yep.
Yeah, you come with the right attitude, and we're ready to go. And you have a place there as long as you want to show up with that good attitude.
So how many guys you have as far as on the technical side, the new equipment you bought? How do you maintain that?
For the maintenance of it all, for we have checklists. It's a monthly checklist. We rarely have to do we don't have to do like a yearly maintenance on any of our CNCs.
What if something breaks?
If something breaks, hopefully we can for instance, with the piece of equipment we just bought, one of our CNCs, the Anka CNC, we sent 2 guys to the manufacturer in Detroit for a week's worth of training, and they showed them how to do basic fixing if there's a breakdown. Otherwise, we have to wait for a technician.
Okay. So those guys are just operaters then?
Yes.
That you've trained, okay.
Right. We do not have a person on staff that is specifically trained for that one thing, waiting for the machine to break down, because fortunately we've learned in investing in, we pay more. We just pay more for better equipment, so we don't have the breakdowns.
Yeah. And that's good. I mean, that's a key for what equipment too.
Yeah,
and then on the design side, you have 2 drafting people or 2 mechanical design?
We have 2 process engineers. Okay. And they're guys who came from the floor. So it's guys who they don't have the degrees, but they've gotten training. They've gotten training from the manufacturers themselves. One big leap that we talked about before was for SolidWorks.
Yeah.
We just finally implemented that in January. So December and January, there was plenty of training from SolidWorks, and talk about a great company with great service.
Was that based on some of the discussions that we've had over the last couple of years, or what were you guys using before SolidWorks?
Crayons.
Crayola brand. But we've talked about, part of the discussion is
TurboCAD, the CAD key. I mean, just basic 2-dimensional things,
Yeah.
but we had to get to 3D. So
the operators learned that.
Had to.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had to, and it's again perception. When the customer sees a 3D versus a 2D, who do they believe? Who are they going to go with?
They're going to be like, these guys got it on with the 3D,
for sure.
Yep. So no, it's been I don't know. It's just taken a while to get here, but we're finally picking up the secrets of what the other people are already doing. It's a lot of fun.
Cool. What else do you guys want to talk about? What else is going on? Are you hunting? Are you guys both hunters?
Yeah.
Nice.
You heading out tomorrow?
Paul?
I'm going. I'm not successful at hunting, but I do go.
Okay. Where do you hunt?
I'm in just north of Wapaka in Ogdensburg.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got some property a couple of years ago, and so this is kind of our first full year of all going up there. The 4 of us are going to go, and we're just going to camp out and kind of.
So camp.
Yeah,
camp.
Yeah, camp. We're gonna try staying out there.
Adam, are you gonna take the camper out to the land in Eden and park it?
No, I'll be over in Stevens Point.
Okay, Stevens Point.
My dad's got some land over there.
Yeah, so probably not that far.
Yeah.
Stevens Point's probably less than an hour away. But
wow,
it's a big deer on camera, so we'll see what we can do when the Orange Army gets out there.
That's one thing that's changed deer hunting tremendously, is to have your cameras send the photo right to your phone.
Yeah, it's almost like cheating, It's like when they're going to be there. And
you get so excited though.
Oh yeah, and it's hard because then it goes to your watch, and you're on all the time.
It does feel like cheating though.
Yeah, but
Oh, cool.
it's fun.
Side observation.
Okay.
I think, Adam, there's something you talk about a lot, and you talk about a lot of things a lot, but
Really? Sorry.
Paul's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she just said that. I think it's really cool looking at the table. Like, you guys are all sitting there in your logoed shirts. Like, we have 3 different manufacturers from Fond du Lac that have this. Did you just check your logo? No, like the open door policy. You talk about that a lot. And
Yeah.
like not just the best kitchens are the ones you can see, but also the idea that we don't need to be so secretive.
I agree.
And I think this is just a really cool opportunity to point that out, because it's exactly what WiLL's and Integrity and Will, like what we're doing. That you're opening the doors, you're collaborating, you're
Yeah.
working with each other, not against each other, because that's just silly.
Yeah, that's one thing that we've WiLL's has been good, ever since I've been
Amazing.
there.
Amazing.
Is nobody's been like, oh, you can't take pictures,
Yeah.
or you got to be careful and stuff. And I mean, we've been pretty open, with that, with people, and I think that's how you collaborate and learn.
How many people do you have here in Fond du Lac?
Oh, I'm trying to think what it is now in Fond du Lac.
A couple hundred?
Yeah, it's a couple
Okay.
hundred. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and we got office people, and
Yeah.
then we got manufacturing, and we got obviously production workers and stuff.
Yeah, and usually about that size, things get really locked down.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just awesome that you guys
Yeah.
are open.
Yeah, and that's been good, because then you can have those conversations with other other companies about, hey, do you ever try this or try that, and I think anything really in the area, we don't really have any competitors that I
No.
can think of that are in the area, that it's like, hey, you want to see how we use this robot or what kind of tooling or how we pick that part up, come on over and check it out.
Yep. Yeah, and typically manufacturing is it's just the opposite. It's like a big box that nobody's allowed to walk into.
Yes.
And I just think there's so much that everybody can learn from each other. And we had our committee meeting a few weeks ago, and we talked a little bit about automation. And I got back to the office and I emailed Paul immediately, and I'm like, "Can I come and see the robot?" And sure enough, we've been working with that particular company now for the last few weeks, and we've designed a whole painting system that can paint 30-foot light poles 500 or 600% faster than an operator can do it. And it's just based on a lot of that collab. And I think it's great.
It's changed a lot, and since I've been working within the industry here, especially locally. Once we got our MIT group together and started doing tours of the local businesses, it's really opened up the eyes for all of us within the group to go see other places. Even Mercury, you'd think, they're going to have everything locked down. No, they don't. They're very open about doing, as long as there's enough people for a tour, they're more than happy to share things. So if we can get everybody in the area on board with that, wow, people would want to move to Fond du Lac County and really
and that's what
make it happen.
That's what this area is good at. The engineering, the manufacturing side of things, being hands-on, the technical things that kind of happen below the radar. It doesn't get a lot of press typically, but I think it seems like that's changing a little bit. And being like proud of that history and doubling down on that, I think is important. Like we're trying to do that with the engineer and builder group, is get the engineers, the builders, the manufacturers, the contractors. We even had an accounting person here that's in manufacturing. Like, just get those people together, collaborating. And a lot of these events in town, you don't always see the technical people there. So to have an event where people can come and get excited about all the projects that everybody's working on, I think is really good. So, and you guys have been a part of that, which is awesome.
The retired engineer who showed up at the last one, who was shouting out.
That was funny.
He came for a tour last week of our facility. Like, yeah, I want to meet this guy. And he pointed out some things that we didn't even, just to have a separate set of eyes with an experienced engineer. It's like, wow, I never thought of it that way.
Was that the guy that was when we were at the Marine Park in the back? Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, what did he say? He's like, you can do that via CNC. And it's like, it's good to have that kind of devil's advocate in the crowd that's willing to pick things apart.
A particular perspective guy
For sure.
who's worked with NASA and worked with Oshkosh Corporation. Yeah, he's been around the block a bit, and it was in Silicon Valley.
Really?
Doing engineering, so he's a wealth of knowledge.
That's awesome.
Sounds like a WiLLcast.
Yeah, we got to get him through here.
Yes. I'll hook
cool.
you up.
Well, thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah,
thanks for all you do in the area, and we'll keep promoting the engineers and the builders and the manufacturing companies, and good things will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep.
Thanks, sir.